The idea to do the acoustic tour, it's hard to say exactly when it came to us, but it could have come already when we actually wrote or recorded the Dethrone and a Crown album. It felt like it was always somewhere in the back of our mind as a thing to happen, as a tale, after the release of the album. It was maybe also something that people expected, kind of as a bonus thing from the whole pledge campaign they were part of and participated in. I think the whole idea came to fruit first when we discussed it seriously with our management and our agent and everything, and they actually thought that it had potential to become a real tour.
I think also when we realized the potential of the songs, what they could be like in a live environment, and also the possibility for us to rework some of our older stuff and make it happen in the same kind of sense. That was also something that made us want to try it out, I think.
Well, that was probably something that we had to sort first. Obviously, we had to swap out a lot of the instruments for acoustic instruments, and the obvious thing was, of course, me picking up an acoustic guitar. I actually also had to pick up a baritone acoustic guitar for the low tunings we used. Also, Niklas had to pick up an acoustic bass, of course. After that, we started talking about what to do more. Obviously, Jonas was gonna sing, but...
Yeah, we discussed the possibility of me playing some just extra guitar. Just to bring some of the Katatonia leads that we have, to have them in the picture as well, and I think it worked out really well with me playing some clean electric guitar on top of the acoustic stuff that was going on. And also in the rhythm department, we had to figure out whether to use a real drum kit or someone playing more subtle percussion, and we came to the conclusion that the percussion thing was the one we wanted to go for, because it's partly because of the environment we were gonna play. Drums are really loud, and we're doing something stripped down, so we went for some nice rhythmic percussion instead of a huge drum kit.
I also think it really suited the whole picture. We pictured ourselves sitting like a half circle on the stage, and it didn't really fit in with a whole drum kit, somewhere in there. It was more like each person now had kind of an equal station and position, and it just made it look very, very even and equal and very moody up there. So everybody was on the same kind of, dimension. So it really panned out well.
I don't think we ever wanted to abandon the whole thing. Of course, it was a very different approach for us, but I think that was also a challenge, because the normal live stuff we've done for many years, it's also fun, of course, but this was something we've never tried before, and that made it even more interesting. So but of course it was difficult to sort of adjust to the whole acoustic thing and the stripped down thing in a live situation. But I never really experienced any real problems, and once we got up there on stage and actually did it, it was Um, for us, it sounded even better than we ever expected, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we were ever worried about it or anything. We were just very nervous the whole time because it was so new. But as soon as we, were warm in our clothes, I think we just enjoyed it more than anything else we've done in a long time. So yeah, positive vibes. We actually had no other choice but to look for guests to be able to save this tour. Two of our old members had left the band, and we had to seek for help actually. And luckily we had some good friends of ours willing to step in. One of them, GP, he's actually the guy who's playing the original percussion on the album, so that made a lot of sense to bring him on the road. It's the same guy. A lot of people might have thought it's Daniel doing all that stuff on the album, but it's actually GP doing all that stuff on the album. And then Bruce, I guess, came natural from your...
Yeah, I did an album with Bruce earlier. It's called Wisdom of Crowds, and knowing him from that thing, and also his main band, the Pineapple Thief, is the music that he does is more acoustic based, I guess, a bit more mellow. So he was a very good choice. He's a great singer, he's a great guitar player, plays on keyboards as well, and to me he was a natural choice, and I just introduced the idea to Anders, and everything fell into place quite fast, I think. So it was the lineup for this run was very easy, very professional, nice sounding, everything was cool.
I think the real reason why we invited Silja to this show was that we had wanted to play this song for a really long time. That was actually a song we held off already while touring for Dead End Kings, because we wanted to save it for her to be part of it. And we felt this was probably gonna be the first time, or maybe the only time, who knows, she could participate and be part of performing this song with us. So we saved it for her exclusively, and we were stoked that she wanted to be part of it, I guess.
Yeah. She agreed to come to London, and we never had any time to rehearse it with her. We just did it on the sound check, I believe. So it was a bit extra nervous there, but I think everybody pulled it off really good. It's a special song, so it's needed to have Silja on when we tried it and when we had it on for this recording. So yeah, it was fantastic. It's really hard to say. I wouldn't call it a tradition because you never know what might happen in the future. It's always hard to predict those things. But it's a nice thing. It does, stir something up. It definitely creates something exciting about an album, even for us, because working with someone from the outside that you look up to is a very honorable and rewarding thing. So I think it's all about the person in question, who it is. I think we have a lot of people that we would like to work with, but we wouldn't just do it for the sake of doing it just to have a guest. The person that we would approach would obviously also have to be very interested and excited to be part of it, because there's no way I'm just gonna
being, going crazy on someone's ass and just nag and make him, just be part of it for whatever reason, like the person really have to, enjoy what we do as well, and think it has to be a mutual thing.
Yeah, and add something to the music to make it even more interesting. So it wouldn't be. I mean, we could invite anyone and just have them do their thing, but if they're not really into what we're doing, it wouldn't add anything. So it has to be like a mutual thing to do. Well, I don't think it was a plan from the very beginning, but once we started thinking about the possibility to record a show, since it's a very special happening in our career, we wanted to have the option to do it, and people had been telling us about the Union Chapel venue. We'd never been there before, and saying it's really beautiful, it's a perfect place to shoot a DVD, and also our crowds in London usually are very nice, so it felt like a natural place to actually film and record the whole show, and to make it a night to remember for those who were there, and a treat for those who couldn't make it.
I think it was really the climax of the whole tour. It was also supposed to be the last gig of the whole thing, even though we added a little gig further up UK after it, but for us it was always the kind of crowning of the whole tour. And if there was one venue, I mean, this was even a chapel you had to capture on film, it had to be Union Chapel.
I don't think we made any special preparations just for the recording of the DVD. We had maybe 6-7 shows before this one, so we felt kind of convenient in what we were doing, and since it's a very calm setting, I don't think the cameras would bother us like they might do when we're doing the normal live shows. We were just seated there doing our thing. Some film crew were filming us, and that's it. It was really...
I didn't really notice the cameras at all, actually. You're more focused on the atmosphere of the show and the audience, so they melted in quite perfectly, actually. And no, it was probably one of the most smooth recordings actually we've done so far on the live front. Well, one thing is that you will hear everything you do. You can almost hear a needle fall to the ground when you play an acoustic show. I mean, a lot of the sounds from chairs are heard, even breathings, everything's kind of comes through. With an electric, like a rock and roll metal show, there's a big wall of sound and distortion you can hide behind, and also kind of utilize for your own benefit. But the thing is that if you really get the acoustic thing right, there's nothing more delicate, sparse and beautiful than that. It really, it pushes the emotional plane of performing music much higher, I think, because just how naked it is in its nature. And it's really hard to say what we prefer to do, because they're so different from each other that it's the yin and yang thing, you know. You really want to have both, but you I wouldn't want to have just one of them all of the time. So it's like day and night.
Yeah, I would have to say actually that in some ways it was easier to do the acoustic show because you can, as Anders already said, it's you can hear everything, which makes it easier to concentrate and hear yourself well, and you can perform in a better way. But on the other hand, of course, it's easier for other people also to spot your mistakes. So, but as a whole, I think it was actually easier than I thought it would be, and probably because we could hear ourselves well, and there was some kind of magic in doing it, which made it fun and interesting.
One of the big reasons why we got excited to do this tour was that, you know, we knew already that it gave us a chance to dig up these old songs and have them be part of the whole concept. Because a lot of people thought we were just gonna go on the road with the Dethroned album, but, you know, why stop there, you know? Why not do the same kind of treatment to the old songs of ours and just, you know, make a great set list out of that? That was something that got me really, really excited, because when you think about those old songs, some of them are great songs, but they're just, you know, at the time they were written and recorded, it was just in a different environment, and it sounded very different and stuff like that. But we could take them into the same kind of nature as we did on the Dead and Kings album and with the Dethroned album. So yeah, that was really exciting to rediscover them and just bring new life into them the same way. Yes, there was a lot of work going back to the songs that didn't have anything at all. But all that work was very, very exciting as well, because the way we do things these days is that we color a lot of the songs with ambience and keys. So to do that with our own songs that were just kind of, you know, primitive versions, yeah, it was very rewarding to do that. You know, it was something I've been, you know, waiting to do almost. A lot of those songs, I consider them really good songs. It was just at the time they were really primitive and kind of had this, you know, same kind of format where it was just guitars, bass, drums, and vocals. So they kind of stepped up and took on an identity that kind of, you know, was more contemporary enough with where we are today and how we write and record music today. So it's a very interesting challenge that turned out really, really nice.
We have altered some of the stuff. I mean, some of the older stuff we did on this tour already were kind of mellow songs from our discography, but some of the songs might have been a bit more metal-based in their original form, and therefore we had to sort of alter a few things, a bit of the melodies, not too much, but just to make them fit better into the whole format of this show, I think. And it was also fun to, you know, play around a little bit and makes it feel more like a jam thing which we usually never do, so it was fun.
Of course, there had to be some songs included into the set because, you know, like because of the songs they are really. You know, the ballad kind of songs, they were kind of obvious choices to be part of an acoustic set. And also some of the, you know, most popular songs, of course, but to do them in a very different version. I think a balance between that, and also not just to play too safe, also throw in some songs we never or very rarely touched upon ever, just to make it, you know, a little bit more unexpected as well. So I think it was all about creating that balance between the safe stuff and the unexpected stuff, and just make it all tied up into one, you know, beautiful thing.
Yes, we added a few songs basically because we realized people thought the playing time was a bit too short. We wanted to have a very compact playing time. We didn't want to overdo this thing, but yes, we realized we could actually add a couple of songs, and they were songs we had never rehearsed with the guys, so we had to do it in between the gigs on sound checks and in the tour bus, and it turned out really fun because I think it had some kind of spirit of what the whole tour was about. It was more of a bonfire thing, acoustic, laid back. So we thought, why not just try and add a couple of songs that we've never played with these guys, and it turned out good, I believe. Yes, I think it's a good thing that a live performance will make your songs sound different, even day by day. It's a broad spectrum of emotions that are sort of seen and heard in the songs. And I think our fans are very open-minded. They totally embrace the idea of having a different take on what we do normally. You know, maybe a couple of people that didn't like the idea, but I don't think they even went to the shows, and if they did, you know, fair enough. We can't please everybody, but the sort of fan base that we have, I believe, is very open-minded, and I think the songs are still the same, even in a different environment. It's not like we've started playing our songs in a Beach Boys version. So it's the same kind of songs, the same emotional value, but they are presented in a different way, and that's, you know, what people get.
When we decided to do this tour, I think it was a mutual thing between all of us that it was not gonna be booked into the normal kind of rock venues we usually do. We definitely seeked to play as weird and different places as we could find. And we ended up with, you know, finding some small intimate clubs that fitted this show quite well as well, and also uh, cathedrals, churches, and chapels, which, you know, it was just a remarkable thing to enter and to actually perform in. Was something that, you know, it's really hard to describe the experience of having performed in those kind of places. But it was always about doing something different for the sake of this tour, because the whole tour was different as an idea from the beginning.
Well, it was important for us to have different settings for this tour. I don't think it had to be all churches and cathedrals, but since the tour is different for us, different for the audience, we wanted the settings to be as different as possible for everyone involved. And as Anders already said, it was very nice experience to have this surrounding when playing this kind of music that we did on this tour.
I also think it was nice that the front of house engineer didn't have to put on any fake reverb in the PA or anything. We could really utilize and take advantage of the natural big echo of these halls. And I mean, just imagine, I mean, just strumming on an acoustic guitar in these kind of places, it's a sound, it's just made for each other, you know, those two things. So the sound was huge. We were quite you know, quite of a silent bunch, but the sound was huge because of the halls we played. No, not at all. We didn't book these places with a secret agenda of any sort. Neither did they book or accept our bookings to welcome us into their communion. I mean, we were only interested in the aesthetics
And the sound.
and the sound, yeah, of what they could offer us, and that's as far as it goes for us.
I don't think it was too difficult to get used to sitting down, mostly because we'd already been sitting down during rehearsals. We knew what to expect from this kind of tour when we sort of made a stage plot and everything. And I don't think people would care for us being different from the normal rock sort of approach. So no, it just felt natural, I have to say.
I think it would have been pretty bizarre to take the rock approach also with this tour, running around strapped with acoustic instruments. It would look really silly. It's like it was made to be tranquil, made to be just seated, and I think we were on the same level as the audience. We were there, both of us, for the music. You know, it wasn't a rock show. It wasn't the action that night. It was only the atmosphere. Yeah, I think the audience kind of enjoyed it as well. We were a little bit, I mean, not worried, but we didn't know what to expect. I never faced a seated audience before in to that extent, and I don't think it's a common thing for our kind of audience to visit cathedrals and churches as well, and take their seats. But no, they seem to appreciate it. I mean, you wouldn't have bought a ticket if you didn't know what you were what you were in for, what you were paying for to see. So no blasphemy, everybody behaved.
I think that the original reason was to prove to ourselves that we could pull this off. It hasn't been a tour for us that was supposed to bring in money or fame or whatever. It's just been a tour of 10 dates that was going to be very special in the career of Katatonia. So it hasn't been a promo tour as it usually is when you have a new album out. This is more of a celebration of our music, and it came from the idea of doing the Dethroned and Uncrowned album, and it just sort of built into a 10-day tour, and that's it. It's not anything else.
I think the venues, regardless of where we would have booked them, would have played out the same way. I think, audience-wise, I don't think they sold out just because they were, cathedrals or whatever. That was just something that we choose to do. Well, Frank DeFault, he's played a big part on the last couple of albums for Katatonia, because we kind of gave him a lot of free hands at first, because we liked to see the input of someone thinking differently from us, see his input and how that would rub off with our sound. So, a lot of the keyboard ideas and arrangements in the beginning came from Frank DeFault, a lot of the loops, a lot of that kind of stuff. And it was a kind of collaboration that was a success, We had fun doing it together, and it was a good timing for it as well. I think it brought a lot of creative ideas to the table that we needed at that point. And since we just, as a good habit, we continue the collaboration up until the point where you always come to a crossroad where you have to take different roads, and we're really happy with what we've done with Frank so far. But it doesn't, just because we go separate ways, it doesn't actually mean that we're gonna change our sound, or that we have lost our sound because of that. Me and Jonas, we always were very interested in the keyboard department, and we were always producing that and making sure it was exactly as we wanted it. So the role Frank had was that he had a good creative input, an extra input into the band that was good spark for the band. But this journey goes on, and there's a lot of ambience and keyboards right now in our writing, more than ever probably. So it's all good.
Well, it's true that Frank had a lot to do with the whole thing about this tour coming together. We actually asked him to be part of it, but he couldn't do it. So we just went with the old good old solution backtracks, and they went fine.
Also, Bruce stepped in.
Bruce stepped in, played a bit of keyboards as well, yes. As for future with Frank, no, we have decided to part ways. We're still good friends, but you know, sometimes you come to a point where you should be creative on your own instead of doing it together, and that's what's happened.
Well, yeah, it's something that pretty much, you know, you think about it all the time. You can never replace a human in any kind of musical setting. The human factor is, of course, where the magic happens. But, you know, if you can't find that person to bring with you on the road and do it his or her own way, you have to somehow you know, take it to your advantage, that you know, technology that is there, and as long as you're not, you know, overdo it or depend on it too much. The backtracks for us is something that works, but yes, if we could replace them with a human that would be on our wavelength and be a, you know, musical skilled person and on the same kind of frequency as we are, I would be all for it. Yeah, losing members is something that you can never, you know, see coming, and it's just something that every band will see sometime during their career. We've been, you know, quite lucky to have a stable lineup for a long time and had some good runs and definitely a good number of years with the same bunch of guys in the band. But all good things must come to an end, and we saw Per leaving. You know, he decided to move abroad down to Spain, and you know, created quite a distance to a lot of things, how to work with a band, you know. And also Daniel, he just, you know, choose family life before the sacrifice of being a musician, which isn't strange at all these days. I think can totally understand his decision behind that, but it's really unfortunate because he was a member for a long time, and having, you know, an important member like that leaving the band will obviously yeah, put some turmoil into the band situation. But it's the same thing for everybody. You know, I don't think there's many bands who can count their lineups from day one till, yeah, how many years they've been active as a band. But let's say like us, you know, almost now 25 years that have the same lineup intact. It's almost impossible. So you just got to deal with it and move on.
Yeah, we do remain friends with the ex-band members, of course. There's no bad blood, really. Especially the more recent ones, we are definitely in touch with. The Norman Brothers, they're still active. They play in a band called October Tide. Per is playing with us in Bloodbath, our death metal side project, and Daniel's still playing the drums on a more local basis, I guess. So they're still active musicians, and we still keep in touch, yes. of course, the situation will be different without him. As Anders already pointed out, he was a member for a long time. However, musically, I think Katatonia as a band will continue, and we will continue to have great drums in our songs. It's something that we got used to, and we won't settle for less. So that's not a big problem, I don't think. It's rather an issue of missing one of the more long-term people we've had in the band. But as already said, we have to deal with it, and that's what we're doing right now.
I don't think we tossed around the thought of breaking up the band just because band members leaving. If we would break up the band, it would be for other motives. It would be probably because we lost interest in being in this kind of musical environment, or in how far we reached on our journey, and if we don't see a future in that anymore. Otherwise, I don't see anything stopping us, really. Katatonia's been around now almost 25 years, so I mean, we've been through ups and downs. It's been a bouncy road, and we've been through a lot of rough, hard times and a lot of obstacles, and you just got to keep your head up, and I still think there's a really good, bright future for Katatonia, and we have a lot of in us still to be expressed and heard and shared.
Actually, it felt good to have a couple of people stepping in that had not been a real part of the band before, in the sort of turmoil that happened after the other guys leaving the band. So yes, it was like a blank canvas. We could concentrate fully on the whole acoustic performance thing, and just roll with that instead of trying to teach people how to play our old songs the way we usually play them. So I think for everybody involved, it was a blank canvas. For us, because we haven't done anything like this before, and for JP and Bruce, who's never played with Katatonia before, we could all sort of meet on the same level and just concentrate on this specific tour instead of trying to recreate something that we had in the past.
Exactly. I don't think the new blood in the band at the time they didn't replace anybody. They were just in there for the new concept we had anyway with the tour. Well, I think every band would want, in an ideal world, would want to have a permanent band member and not just, a coming and going guest or session musician. But lately, I kind of changed my mind on it a little bit, because I don't see anything wrong with using long-term session musicians as well, as long as they are devoted to the job. Sometimes you just can't get the right guy from the start, but you still have to go on tour, you still have to make records. So by working with people that you enjoy working with, and that are very skillful and capable of playing, the only choice sometimes might to be to actually use guests or session musicians. So this is what we've been doing right now. We've been playing with a couple of guys that, you know, we're trying out, see how it feels like, and it's also mutual on their part. They're gonna have to see what the world of Katatonia is about and how they adapt to that, and how they if they're comfortable with the way we do things in our world, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, it's hard to just meet someone and see they're good players, and then you just say, okay, you got the job. So you always have to sort of field test a person as well, you know, by going on tours, playing shows, maybe do an album. But right now it feels very good with the session guys that we have. So we're still sort of see what will come from it, and it's working out well so far. Well, the only responsibility that we have towards our fans is to be honest with our own music and nothing else, you know. That's all we can do, and we trust that people trust us.
I think it's very dangerous as soon as you start to take other people's opinions into consideration when you create music or make relevant, deep, important decisions for the band. This really has to come from yourself or from within the circle of the band. As soon as you start looking for answers on the outside, you're not really following the path you set out on, you know. This is difficult. This is probably why it's taking longer and longer also for Katatonia to come up with certain things, because we need to find those answers within us, and it's getting harder and harder because we've been doing it for such a long time. Some people think it might get easier, but it's really not, because we're also at the same time raising the bar for everything we do, and it's for everything we do. It's conceptual. It's not just a song. It's not just music. It's the level of craftsmanship, and you know, the emotional aspect of it, and also business kind of aspect of being in a band. So I'm super happy about the fan base we have and that they are loyal, but they really have to trust our decision. At the end of the day, that's what matters, and that's what Katatonia is all about.
I think if we would bring back the growling sort of vocals just for the sake of doing it, we wouldn't win back any fans that left us when we started doing the clean vocals, because they would hear probably that the growling is not exactly what we want to do at this point. I think what we're doing now, and we've done for the past sort of 15 years, it's exactly where we want to be vocally, musically. So right now there's no room for growling vocals in Katatonia.
Yeah, people should really, you know, consider the time that's been, you know, the water under the bridge here, I was almost about to say. We only had growls for a limited amount of years, while the clean vocals have been dominating our discography, and there's a reason for that. And I don't think it's as easy as just bringing growls back just for the sake of it. It wouldn't, I don't think, I mean, if a fan would say they love the new album just because we added growls, there's a serious issue with that. It means that the music doesn't have any kind of, you know, emphasis on itself then, just because growls were added and exchanged for the clean vocals. So it goes way deeper than that. Things are way more deep than just having growls or clean vocals. They probably are. So were probably we back when we were teenagers. It's just part of the whole thing. But hopefully people, as they grow older and the more music they hear, the more oriented they get, it will probably loosen up a bit. It's for your own good. It's healthy to be open-minded, trust me. Well, it's of course a very rewarding thing to hear, and we do get to hear a lot about it when we meet with all our fans when we're out touring. They come up and, you know, to your face and really, you know, we share a few good words and they tell us about their experiences and what, you know, what Katatonia means in their lives and everything, and that's all good. We definitely appreciate everybody doing that, but when it gets too personal, there's always kind of an point. You do get kind of reserved because you don't want to be responsible for some of the actions that people do. You know, everybody have their own responsibility to do or not do things in their lives, and we don't preach or tell anybody what to do. We just you know, singing and making songs about how we feel about certain things, and if people take that too far, or that's entirely up to them, but you know, it's a free world.
Well, yeah, the lyrics are kind of personal. They've always been like that. And it seems like it's an ongoing process for me to sort of take my personal experiences and try to make decent song lyrics out of it. Of course, it has to be mixed up with some fiction every now and then. But most of it comes from personal experiences or just things that's on my mind, basically. And I do think a lot, so it's a big well to take from. It's both good and bad, but it's working out, I think, in a lyrical context.
I think personal experiences can also be, to an extent, where your mind is at, you know. You don't have to have experienced it in real life, as long as your thoughts are in that kind of zone. It's kind of who you are anyway. Everything comes first with a thought of your mind before you do the act or the action, so to speak. So I think it's personal experience. It's really interesting to say, where does that start or end? No, it's really hard to imagine anything that happens even, you know, 5-10 years ahead, regardless how old you are at the time. But, you know, if someone would have said, you know, playing acoustic set and in cathedrals, it would sound really bizarre to me. It would sound cool, but really bizarre. But in general, you know, with our families and everything, I think they gotten used to it at this point. We've been doing it now for almost 25 years, and they're used to, you know, that Katatonia takes a big part of our lives, and it's something that we can never really switch on and off. It's just there the whole time, and something that you just go to bed with, you know, and something that you wake up to every day. And it's been like that for, you know, our whole adult lives, basically. And I never really asked them, but I hope they're proud, you know, of some of the achievements we've done so far.
Yeah, I think they're probably used to it by now, and used to us being so sort of occupied all the time with the band. I mean, it's been almost like a lifelong contract that we have with Katatonia, and it's not something that we could just quit for the sake of other stuff. I mean, of course, it's possible to mix everything, which is good. Otherwise, we wouldn't have families, I guess. But yeah, so they're probably used to it, and hopefully proud of some of the stuff that we've actually achieved through the years.
Well, the time has come once again to write and record another full-length album. We're right in that cycle right now. It's an exciting time, but it also involves a lot of nerves and a lot of thoughts, ups and downs. As I said before, we continue to raise the bar, so that practically means that you have to throw away a lot of your own ideas that you might not think is gonna cut it actually for the album. And that can be quite a painful process actually, to, you know, physically move your hand of a recorded riff and put it in the bin. But you just have to do it. You just have to keep going at it all the time, because one day when you wake up and you hear one of those riffs you made, you hear if it was, you know, if it was above that bar or below that bar, and you just gotta go at it and continue doing it. And it takes time, but we're digging really hard at it right now, and just gotta get, you know, build up momentum and gather a lot of material, because yeah, an album doesn't write itself. You really have to have some good ideas, and the ideas have to differ from each other as well. So it's a complex creative process. Enjoying it very much, but it's getting extremely challenging. The tour won't affect the writing of a new album. Without the tour, the new album would probably have sounded the same anyway. I think the new album will be a direct answer more on the last album actually, which, well, technically the last album is Dethroned on the Crown, but we refer to the last album with Dead End Kings, obviously. And you know, just because we made an acoustic album doesn't mean we have changed our main overall sound into something mellow and stripped out, you know, all the distortion and the heavy stuff like drums and everything. It's definitely going to be a lot of that on the new album. With that said, I mean, there's still, of course, some open spaces for some beautiful acoustic guitars as well if we want to. So just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we could even do the Dethroned album and tour is because our music is so diverse within itself. So it's of course there's going to be mellow, dark, beautiful, haunting parts on the new album, but also there's going to be a lot of drums as well, you know. So it's going to be a mixture as always.
No education whatsoever. Never took any lessons. Never went to any musical school. No colleges like that, no programs, anything. Just self-taught, still struggling exclusively. And well, you know, the language, musical terms, kind of stuff. It's just something that comes and goes. I mean, if you're sitting in a studio and talking with an engineer, of course, there's going to be some musical phrases thrown around, but it's actually something we don't, you know, deal with that so much within the Katatonia camp, so to speak. Kind of prefer to phrase stuff more casually, I think, within this band. We made up words for everything that I think only we know what they mean, but if we're in the studio or on the stage talking to some engineer, whatever, of course, you know, you gotta know what
A minor.
yeah, what is that, a chord or a
It's a drum beat.
exactly, so there you go. I have no idea. This is just something that we've been doing since day one. We always like to capture a vibe when we were writing, and just led to the next stage. So we always trying to capture kind of color to set the mood. And as soon as we have that color, that just leads to the next thing. And you know, images and scenes just keeps popping up as we write. A lot of the riffs we have indirectly like described as scenes, almost like stills or something like out of a movie, and it's almost like you're animating a video while writing the song. And I think that's a very creative kind of way of doing music. It really brings out the fantasy to your full extent, I think. So we're really comfortable by doing that, always done that.
It's very hard to pinpoint and say exactly, narrow it down to certain things. I remember playing in Mexico for the first time was a really big thing for, I think, everybody in the band. We also, but maybe actually the Dethroned tour has been one of the biggest.
A recent
Yeah,
highlight,
it's a recent
yeah.
highlight and one of the more interesting peaks that we've had creatively and musically, I think. First of all, to do the stripped version of Dead End Kings and then make a tour for it, that's different from anything we've ever done before.
Mm. It's really hard to sit here now and say that this is something we'll do again, or as the same, or say it we will never do it again. It's impossible to say at this point. Really enjoyed doing it. We know we can do it. So you know, we'll see what happens. But let's leave it up to Bruce, shall we?
Yeah, it's totally up to Bruce.
It's up to you, Bruce.
If we're gonna ever do it again. The best and worst part of it, I think the best part of it was the response from the audiences that we had, and also ourselves actually managing to pull it through. And as for the worst thing,
maybe that the kind of lineup that we had couldn't be part of fulfilling this as well. I think maybe it's a little bit of a shame, because there was no limit how many people we could have been on that stage. We could have been, you know, easily have a keyboard player. We could have had two percussionists or whatever.
Yeah.
We could have had even, you know, everybody could have fit
String
in
section.
yeah, exactly. So that's probably the worst part of it. But in my mind, I don't really see a bad part of it.
No,
it's it's just a wonderful experience and one of the best memories ever.
Totally.